Emma, thanks so much for coming. You were the most requested guest. I know it's going to be already amazing, but I put it up on Instagram, and I wouldn't have a huge following on Instagram, but the amount of people that said your name for this podcast, so you're already a celeb.
Wow, Sharon, no pressure. So,
listen, thanks so much for coming. I want to I know you have a really diverse background. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, you worked in corporate, was it Air?
Air, yes, it was
and
indeed.
Then you transitioned into becoming an entrepreneur, very scary, bit like me. But tell us about maybe the thought process, how that came about, and a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, no problem, Sharon. Thank you very much for having me today. So I worked in Air for over 13 years, loved the corporate world, and I had my first daughter in 2010.
Okay.
So I was on maternity leave and went back to work and actually found out I was pregnant again. So it was very close.
That happened to me. That happened to me in my second too.
So 2 girls, and you know, while 2010, 2012 may not seem that long ago because we're only in 2025, it was a very different landscape. I worked in a primarily male-dominated environment. I was in business development, key account management within Aircom Wholesale, managing some really high-end accounts, which I absolutely loved. And I will say that my managers at the time were fantastic, but there was something missing.
Yeah.
I decided I was going to apply for voluntary redundancy. At the time it was available. I applied and I was refused. And I said, okay.
They said, we're keeping her.
Yes. But I was devastated because I had 2 girls at home and I wanted that time. I needed more than just the maternity leave.
I just think that that's not enough time, particularly when you have 2. It's so difficult. It's a sleepless night. You're up the next day. It's underestimated.
I absolutely agree. So that was my main reason for wanting to leave the corporate world. So eventually, after to and fro, I got released, and but I'm very grateful for the opportunities I had whilst I worked in Air, because it taught me so much that I only realised when I went on into the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah, it stands to you. It does, Emma. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely does. So I left there in 2012 into 2013, and just at that time my husband then lost his job. So
yeah, because that was around the crash. That was when kind of everything went south, really.
It was.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people experienced that.
They did. So there was the 2 of us at home. My parents thought I had really lost my mind, that I was giving up, you know,
your good job,
a good pensionable job. But I just knew in my gut there was more for me than that.
Yeah.
And that probably came from a family of, you know, my mum worked for herself, so did my dad, and probably so did my grandparents, you know, when I think about it in terms of their farming background and all that. So I knew there was more for me. What that was, I didn't know. So during that period up to 2017, myself and my husband got involved in a business, a retail business, and that business closed in 2016. So all eggs in one basket. Business closed in 2016. So 2017, what were we going to do? But during that that period, I had gotten really involved in networking. So I was involved in the County Kildare Chamber. I got involved in BNI and in networking. So when that business closed, I recall good friends, family, and all the support around me that I really needed that December into January. But one thing that was constant in all of that was a mentor that I had through the local enterprise office in Kildare, and that was Blaise Brosnan. So he really helped me with my confidence and all of those things. And from that point, my first business was born, and that was Balloon HQ back in 2017, which is still a creative design event agency, and it's run by my husband now. But that's where I started.
And did you have that creative side to you, Emma, or?
Look at, I suppose, Sharon, coming from the corporate space, I knew that there was an opportunity to marry sales with branding and all of that.
Yeah.
So while the business, while we initially called the business Balloon HQ, We Inflate Brands, it really was around activating brands and for their employee events, whether that's external or internal, and bringing the wow factor to that. So really ensuring that the message was carried through from the time, if it was an employee award system, from the time the employee entered the building right through to the end of the night with branding. everything
Brilliant.
branded. So that's where Balloon HQ came from. And then we successfully, as we've spoken many times before about, growing businesses, we successfully won a lot of corporate contracts and developed the business from there. And I suppose one highlight was winning the Centre Parks contract for Ireland.
Wow.
In 2018. That was a huge one. And that came from a connection that I knew in B&I, even though we weren't still regular attendees of those meetings. It came from a guy seeing an opportunity, ringing me, asking me, did I want to go down to Mullingar? And the first meeting.
Pitch for the business.
And pitch for the business. And that's where that business really grew from, and referrals. And all those customers that we started with in 2017, 2018, I can safely say that although my husband manages that business now, those customers are still customers of ours today.
And I think people can sometimes get carried away with their social media and their online presence, but you cannot beat relationships. Looking somebody face to face, in the eye, in a room, at a networking event. Tell us what you think about the importance of that, because I know you're a big, big networker. We'll talk about Network Ireland in a few minutes, but just for people listening that maybe are frightened to go to a networking event, think it's not for them, think socials is the way. Any advice or any opinion on that, Emma?
So people buy people. People buy everything. And getting in a room, like I know what it was like in COVID, we had to move all online. And that was great because it gave you opportunities perhaps to reach people that you didn't know before. But physically, handshake, a look in the eye, a hug, all of those things make such a difference to building that trust and building that credibility and that presence. You buy someone's presence. And I think even telling a story, Sharon, when you're physically with someone in a space. And I believe from all of my roles, corporate right through to now, that people are everything, whether that's supporting them on a team, whether that's coaching them, whether mentoring, whether it's in a purchase sales relationship, in front of them. You can see that eye movement. You can tell. It's all about looking that person straight in the eye, and you can tell whether they're interested. You can tell by the body language, the closed arms, whatever. And I'm no expert in networking, but what I can say is I came from an environment of no networking into networking, and I immersed myself into it. So I learned a lot from watching people and watching others. And the successful ones, what worked, what didn't work. So having a clear elevator pitch. Being memorable. So whether that was wearing a funky pair of shoes or having a really a good tagline for my business, whatever that was, it was really important to get that message across. And again, when I talk about people, I still have people that I am very well connected with back to my time in Air. And that goes back, they say when you leave a business, you actually leave great friends. And that is so true, because sometimes it is friends that keep you there as well.
It is. Yeah. The team sometimes, I know I've been in a couple of corporate jobs that I hated, but the team I loved, and I'd stick around because the camaraderie that we had or the relationships that we had, and we were just so connected. But it's the backbone of every business. And I was listening to people because we're talking about AI and, it's fantastic for businesses. But what's going to be the differentiator, I think, for business going forward is that human connection. And Irish people are just good at it. We're just naturally good at it. I like it, So we have kind of the upper hand there. And I think for younger people, they can learn a lot from this conversation around, get up, get out, shake hands, learn how to walk into a room, be brave and do it, because the human connection is what's going to differentiate us, I think, as we move through the next 5 to 10 years.
So there's two things there. The be brave piece is so, so important. And a smile when you meet someone. It can make or break someone's day. You never know what someone is going through. And, you can be nervous, as I am today, but you can, once you get settled into a conversation.
People are generally lovely. They're lovely. People want to help you. They want you to do well. They're not judging you. Everybody knows what it was like the first time you walked into a room. And we were talking before we went online here about, I remember the first time that I went to a networking event as Face Credit. So I had delivered presentations all over Europe. I was so terrified that I actually thought everybody in the room can hear my heart beating, because it was just so loud, and I couldn't believe how nervous I was. So everybody knows what that feels like. Everybody, even your first sales meeting. everybody knows what it feels like. So they're not going to judge you, or they're not going to make you,
No.
it's normal. It's
And
normal.
I would say to anyone, who has a business idea or who is in a career and thinking about expanding their network, I would encourage you to take that step, be brave and break that barrier and go to your first meeting, because people are there to support and help you. And just back to the other point I wanted to make was around AI. AI is really important and we need to utilize it and bring it into our businesses, because it can help us, with so many elements, whether that's admin, whether it's a process around sales, whatever, utilize it. But keep your human element. Keep that, as I would say, I keep that Emma to it, keep that Sharon to it, because you know what is automated when you receive in an email or you see it comes into you and you just go, my God, I'm just another one on the list.
Yeah.
That doesn't buy customers. That doesn't tick the box. You need to be
people
human.
know, and they want to feel important. We all do. I do. So I think if we have to be careful what we outsource to AI.
Absolutely, you've summed that up lovely. But one final piece on the communication and the importance of in-person. And I say in-person, but I also mean the importance of a phone call. Too many people use
my language.
Email to communicate. Email is a tool. Communication, pick up the phone, have a conversation. I know my two girls look at me if I was to say, pick up the phone and ring. They think, why would I ring anyone? Sure, I can just send them a text, or I can just send them, pick up the phone. It's only a few moments, but that conversion that you can get from a phone call as well.
It's way different.
It's so different.
And the business that we're in, telephone collections, like I will train, I don't care if somebody's 20 years in credit control. When I bring them in, I'll train them on our techniques. But particularly the younger girls, they're terrified of the phone. Like I remember one girl started with me and she had a fantastic CV, very bright. And I said to her, now, if you just phone those 5 now, and she said to me, can you phone them first and let me hear? She actually didn't know what to say on the phone. And I remember when I started working in the corporate world, it was phone. So that's a lost art. But I think the people who can and will do it will be way more successful. Because an email, you can't pick up tone. You don't know what people mean. It can be misinterpreted. Picking up the phone. And as I always say, people will tell you things on the phone they'd never put in writing.
Absolutely. It's like going to your hairdresser.
So they'll never put that in writing. So I think that's definitely a lost art. And there's one thing that I really wanted to ask about. I know that you were a national president of the Network Ireland, and we were so proud to have you. Kildare woman with the Kildare branch.
Thank you.
But that is a massive role. It's voluntary.
Yes.
It's a very busy role. I looked at you sometimes at the events, showing up. Like, I wondered, was it worth it? What did you gain? I know it looked like a very, very busy year. It must have been so important to you for you to take on that role. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Network Ireland, Sharon, means a lot to me. I got involved in Network Ireland back in 2015, 2016, thanks to Stella Johnson in Kildare. And I remember going to my first event and I was put beside Mary Feely Hobbs, and she had me hooked from day one. And Mary's actually a past national president of Network Ireland as well. But when I really got to understand, the values are around leading, supporting and collaboration, and they really align with my own values, and I wanted, as I got more involved at a branch level, I really felt that there was more I could give. So fast forward from being involved as a branch president in Kildare in 2019 to 2023 when I became national president. There was lots of ups and downs and COVID and everything in between. It was a very, very busy year, but it was very clear, Sharon, from the outset what I wanted to achieve for our membership in Network Ireland. So we've over 1,300 members, but I was very clear that I wanted to really focus in what do our members actually want, because 1,300 members is quite diverse and not every member wants the same. So really focusing on the branches. So we successfully did that. And we increased, not only did we retain, but we increased our membership in 2023 by 35%. So I was very proud of that because, we really took a deep dive at the branch levels. What could we give at local level? But that all accumulated. Yes, it was worth every single minute, I absolutely loved it. I embraced it. There was times that it was extremely challenging, don't get me wrong, because obviously I was running another business and the kids and football and family and friends and everything that goes with it. But I was very strict with my boundaries, Sharon.
Okay.
And I knew I would have to be going into a role like that to be able to give my best self as well to it. So from having clear goals, membership, growing the corporate space, because I really believe that's important. That's a whole untapped area, and we're growing that in the moment within Network Ireland, both for employees, for them to learn how to network, but equally for our members to have an opportunity to become potentially a supplier in the corporate space as well. So there's a win-win for everyone there. And the other piece I wanted to do was offer more opportunity for women in business, because there's a lot of challenges there when women are starting out, whether it's around funding, whether it's around leadership roles. So I looked at a space in the cross-border space with Women in Business Northern Ireland. And I have to say I was very blessed to meet Lorraine Atchison and Roseanne Kelly from Women in Business Northern Ireland. And we started a conversation around collaboration and what would that look like for our members.
And this was the first time that had been done, where the island of Ireland came together.
Absolutely.
So that was the first time. We had never done that before. There was the north of Ireland, there was the south, and this was the first time. That was very brave.
Yeah, it was. But
important.
Really important. So there were conversations before, but nothing ever happened. And I really wanted to see how could we drive that forward. Now, it's all about alignment as well. So both Network Ireland and Women in Business were in a place where we were ready to explore how that would look, to explore that for our members. And I'm delighted to say that we fast forward to 2025 from 2023. And I was smiling to myself when I was driving up the road here today. I think I could drive this road blind now, because I've been up to Belfast so many times, and Uri and the North over the last 2 years. So I was reminiscing on the way up as well. But, you know, when I look now to where we are. So we started with a conversation in July 2023. We delivered a Grow It programme for 30 entrepreneurs in 23-24. Then through the Shared Island Fund, with the support of Enterprise Ireland and Intertrade Ireland and EY, we managed to, when I say we managed Network Ireland and Women in Business, I'm leading it on behalf of Network Ireland and Roisin leads it on behalf of Women in Business. We successfully secured the contract to deliver a Grow It programme, again for 30 entrepreneurs, but a Spark It programme for startups, for those with an idea. And we're currently delivering those programmes. So it's the cross-border relations.
The Grow It programme, Emma, what is that? So maybe for people listening who are thinking, oh, this sounds like something I'd love for my business. What does that look like? So
it's a programme for entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter, you know, once you have your business, you know, from 18 months plus. And you're looking to grow your connections. You're looking to export. Not just in the north, but beyond. You're looking to learn a little bit more about strategy. You're looking to learn a little bit more about leadership. You're looking to learn a little bit more about finance. So we have a programme that every month we focus in on each of those areas, and we deliver with expert facilitators on those topics. Brilliant. So that cohort get that experience and have that platform. And I know from the alumni from the first cohort, the successes, they have a Friday Wins WhatsApp group. But what they've also developed is that if something doesn't go right, they're able to lean in and learn from each other. So that vulnerability piece is there. So it's a beautiful space.
Brilliant.
And a great platform for women who, whilst they have a business, just feel that they need to tweak elements but don't know where to go. And they're learning peer-to-peer learning as well. Yeah. So there's so much in that Grow It space. So I'm really delighted that it has developed out that far. But we have, Network Ireland has their International Women's Day on the 8th of March in Croke Park this year. And it's the first, Amy O'Sullivan is our Network Ireland National President. And it's our first Network Ireland All-Ireland International Women's Day. Brilliant. And Intertrade and Enterprise Ireland and Women in Business are our key partners and sponsors. And that has all stemmed from 2023. Wow. So, you know, when you take on a role which is as busy as Network Ireland, you have to look at the bigger picture as well. It's not just, you know, what's in it for the short term, the bigger piece, the impact piece, the legacy piece. And what's going to help our members. Yeah, we'd love more programs, and we want more programs, and we'll continue to drive that message and seek those supports in terms of funding. So it's really, and it's been an exciting journey to be part of, and I'm excited to continue my role in supporting Amy as our national president and Karen Ronan as our national vice president in, meeting and supporting our members nationwide.
And just to build off that, so there's a couple of things I suppose that come up and things that come up for me all the time when I'm seeing networking in a female only space. And people often say, if there was a men only one, why do you think women need that support more than men, or a different type of support? So a couple of things that we spoke about before we came on. Sometimes are women supporting each other in the right way? If I look at how men network, there's a camaraderie there. They play golf. Deals are done on the golf course. I don't know if women are as good at that as men. And this, by the sounds of it, what you set up is starting to teach women how they can support each other in a way that helps them grow their business, and not just in a "you're great." Because we need to do more than that for each other. We need to, give referrals, give advice, help, mention their names in rooms when they're not there. Even if they're slightly in competition with us, it's to build each other up. I see men doing that a lot more than women. Is it that we don't know how to support each other? What do you think that is, Emma? Or am I wrong, totally off there?
So I think there's a few things there, Sharon. I suppose I learned very early on in my corporate world, because I didn't know how to play golf. I cannot coordinate myself on a golf course, so that was out for me. But I learned the importance of networking. It wasn't actually even called networking when I think about it.
No, it wasn't. I didn't know what it was called, but it was just making friends and getting to know people.
But you hear when in the teams, and they come back in, that deal's happening. And that made me think, wow, I don't golf, but I need to get myself involved in that. So when I started on my entrepreneurial journey, so I would say, in terms of BNI and the chambers, they're fully inclusive networks in terms of male and female. So I have certainly found great supports from both. And I think that has been very clear about, what I want to get, but what I can give as well, because it's a two-way street. And sometimes people forget that when they go networking. They think that they rock up once and that they will just get a referral. It's about, as we talked about, that building trust piece. For me, within Network Ireland, and I've said this to you before, it's about having that circle and that close, first of all, that circle of five, as I always call it, and then building out from there. They become your real kind of key referral partners. But it's much more than that. It's about being intentional.
Yeah, okay.
And being intentional about what you give and what you receive. So it's as simple as, if someone gives you a referral, you say thank you. You pick up the phone, again, back to the communication, and say thank you. That means so much. That can lead to more referrals. Because if you just get a referral in from somebody, you go, oh, okay, well, and you don't say thanks.
Yeah.
They're not going to
get another one. And maybe we're not very clear about what we need from each other. Are we asking the right questions? Are we saying, look, I'd love if you could maybe give me an introduction to X, Y, and Z. I know you worked in air. Is there anybody you know there? And if people say, no, I can't. But I think we're maybe less likely to ask those questions directly. And maybe that's why it seems that we don't get that, because people often say to me, oh, the female networks are quite fluffy. But if you are intentional, as you said, about what you want, what you can give, and asking people for what you need.
And look, people go to networks for different reasons. Some go for personal, some go for professional development. And I think you need to be very clear why you're joining or why you want to go to a network. But I don't see within Network Ireland, certainly I don't see any fluff. I see real hard work, women who are there to develop, but women who are there to support. Yeah. We have a mentoring support as well. We've many mentors from, and I'm saying Kildare because that's where we both live, but we've many mentors across I suppose, specific areas, whether that's speaking with confidence, whether that's learning how to use TikTok for selling, whatever that may be. There's loads of mentors. So I would encourage people to, really understand and bring it right back to basics. Why are you networking? And if you're not getting those referrals, rather than blaming others, just take a moment. And I always say, take that 1% of your day and spend, that 1% of your day with yourself around, what do I want from this network? And really evaluate, are you positioning yourself correctly?
Yeah.
With
and
your
are you
network?
going kind of prepared for what you want? Because I just see the difference, but and I've great women in my life.
I know.
Fabulous women. I run a team of women only, so I'm a woman's woman, right?
You sure are.
I really am, and I love them. But sometimes I'm like, I see the camaraderie with men, and I'm like, I don't see the same in business with women. Now, I think it's changing, but I think a network like Network Ireland is what you've done there and what you've created. I think it's the start of that turn, and really for us. And we need to remember in business as women to support each other in the right way. Ask if you see somebody struggling, ask them what they need and be that support. But be that support around also giving them, the kick up the arse when they need it. Men are great at that for each other. To say, look, you need to get out there, we're all very good at being the lovely friend, but a really good friend is the one that's going to tell you when you're doing something wrong as well. And when you need, to kind of put on your big girl pants. And I think that's something that I know is actually the support I'd want from a woman. If she saw a mistake I was making, she called me out, I'd be really happy with that. Not publicly, but they rang me and said, whatever it is, I think don't be afraid to do that as well.
But isn't that how we move forward, Sharon?
Yeah.
We move forward from learning and learning from each other. So I find in the networks that I'm in that it is about having that one-to-one and having those conversations and not be afraid to talk about the challenges that you're having. Not be real.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's where the fluff sometimes can appear because it seems all too easy.
It's not.
But that's not the reality of it. We're having the hard conversations. We're having the accountability conversations. And that accountability for me is really important. So when you talk about men and the camaraderie and coming in off the golf course with deals, that happens, and that is happening. Network Ireland is, and I'm just talking about that because that's where a lot of my experience would be in the networking space. Is 40 years old, but so much has changed in 40 years old. So much has changed in 10 years, and networking is going to continue to change, but it's still back to people and actively listening. So when I'm in a room, I actively listen to what Sharon Farrell wants. I don't cosmetically listen with a smile. Actively listen. And then I take the ownership of following up, saying, do you know what, Sharon, I was in the room and I actually heard this person asking for a referral and I think you may be the right fit. So I take ownership of that and I ring with the referral. So no one asked me to do that. But that's where I believe the magic happens.
And it does. And there was a couple of things I really wanted to, that you said that I really wanted to ask you about. You said you put up boundaries because as women, the challenges are different than women and men. And as we spoke about earlier, I have great men in my life as well.
Yep.
That really helped me on my journey in business. I'll call them Blaze, Brosnan, Niall Reck, Colin O'Brien. They're three. Wayne Crosby's also been very good. So there's people, men in my business life that have helped me so much. But the challenges for women are different. And I know it's controversial, but they are because we put a lot, and I'll give you an example. My husband travels a lot for work, right? And I was saying to him, he had to be away for 10 days. And I said to him, will you feel guilty now when you're gone? And he said, no, I'll be back. And I said, will you not? He said, no, I don't feel guilty. Like I'm going for work. I'd feel guilty. So some of the pressures we put on ourselves,
yes, we're
just different. We've different expectations of ourselves. Rightly or wrongly, society have different expectations of us. And I used to hate when people said, how do you manage it all with your kids? Now I actually think people were asking me to say, how do you do it? Like practical things like, maybe having a cleaner in and people to help me around the house and supports from other women where I need it and asking for help. I used to be allergic to the question, but I flipped it now and said, some women and men ask me that because they're thinking, actually, please give me some advice on how you do it. So all that's really important. It's very different for men and women in business. But the boundaries piece, because I'm not good at this, right? This is I'm terrible at the boundaries. What does that look like? And when you said you were very good at putting boundaries up, what does that look like? And help me.
So what that looks like both for me and for clients that I work with, because it's always a challenge. So first and foremost, you look at your at life as an integrated piece rather than saying, okay, this is personal and professional. So as an entrepreneur, when I first started out, I integrated my whole life. So I gave myself time slots, for want of a better description. Okay, so for this hour, I am going to do emails. I am not answering my phone. I am not going to get sidetracked. So when I say setting boundaries, I mean about becoming laser focused.
Okay.
I talk about, I said about the 1% earlier on. That is really, really important. The 2-minute rule around getting work done. If you can do it in 2 minutes, don't procrastinate. Get it done. Get it off your list.
Yeah, love that.
Really, it's a simple thing. I was doing an event in Kildare for Helen Dillon for Network Ireland, talking all about strategic growth, both personally and professionally. And you were not in the room, but I did give you a shout out because I had seen on your Instagram, you talked about what helps you get ready for the week. And you actually talked about preparing your clothes and stuff like that for the week. I've been doing that a lifetime. Because for me, again, that's another boundary piece. That's space, that's all done, and I'm organised. Likewise with the kids and the football matches. So, boundaries are very much part of my life. You can do everything, not all at the same time within one day, but structure your day. And you know what? If there's something that you don't get done, and I learned this from our fabulous Blaise Brosnan, if you don't get it done, move it forward. And then really look at how important is that in your overall goal for the week, the month or the year. Because when you start to break it down like that, you start to achieve within and see what you're achieving within a day, that gets rid of that imposter syndrome. It gets rid of the overwhelm. It gets rid of the burnout. It gets rid of all of those things. So you can never underestimate boundaries and ask for help. And take the help.
I love that piece where you said it's your life. And as an entrepreneur, it is. So the time slots, I think, are very powerful. That's something I'm going to use because I'm very regimented with my work day. So if you look at my diary, I'm like laser focused. I love the 2-minute thing because I'd always say, just get it done now, Sharon. Just get it off the list.
Yep.
But I sometimes don't make enough space. I cannot tell you, Emma, the last time I saw I saw my friend. We've been friends since I was 9 for the first time in a year and a half last week, only because my son was home and he was going to visit her. So I'm very bad at, the business has taken over my life. And this is probably where we'll talk about your coaching piece. And it can be all consuming because I want it to be successful. I love what I do. I'm committed to my customers. I feel responsible for my team. I'm like, it's dripping out of my DNA, okay? Now, it's in my blood. Face credit is me and I'm it. But the piece, people like me who have never done this before, it's very difficult to detach then from the business, to have a family life, to see your friends. And all that's really important. I know it is, okay? I really know. But I don't know how to break away from it.
So maybe a reframing of it, rather than thinking I need to detach from work to my family, reframe about how you think about that you integrate the whole lot together.
That's when you said that, I felt that. I was like, there just has to be time slots for everything because the whole lot is who I am now. And
it is who you are. And I learned this, so I'm learning as I go as well. And I'm just going to give it a mention because we talked about opportunity and referrals and collaborations and the importance of all of that. And I have the opportunity to work with a fantastic lady called Linda O'Mahony Logan from Leadership 360. She's based in Kerry. She was a branch president when I was national president. Okay. And from that, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, we are launching a platform called the Leadership Lounge. And it's all about, it's a space for industry experts to come together and leaders and career professionals, anyone who's in a leadership space to come together to learn. But it was from Linda that I really, I always knew it, but from actually listening to her that I learned so much about the integration and bringing my whole life together.
Yeah, that's
and bringing
powerful.
Everything into one and leverage, because when you start to do that, that weight lifts off.
Yeah, and the guilt.
And the guilt, because you're thinking, so you talked about your friend there. And I myself was guilty of this in 2023, of not seeing my friends and the self-care piece. Yeah. So I would say now within my boundaries and those time slots. So yes, I have meetings with myself. Yeah. Yes, I have self-care time to go for a walk. Yes, I have the time slots to go to meet up with a friend for a coffee. that's not me not taking my business seriously. That's not me. That's giving my mind the reset that it needs to actually be able to excel with my family or within my business, because I'm actually intentionally, again, that word intentionally, taking the time to be organised and to have those boundaries.
And to look after yourself, because, I know the overwhelm happens for me when I'm just going too hard at business. And when I take the breaks, I know I'm fresher. So I think I really want to talk about, you've moved into that business coaching, and I think that's where we need that support and help, and somebody to say to you, are you taking the time? And remind you to do it and help you on the journey. Because I say, if we wanted to go to the Olympics, we'd have a coach. If we wanted to go and run a marathon or even just get fitter, we'd have a coach and a nutrition coach. But we're frightened to have business coaches. But it's really, really vital. Like, we've never done it before. And somebody to keep us accountable, somebody to talk to, somebody to cry to, somebody to, really, really let off what's going on in the business, because I hate bringing it home to my husband. Tell us a little bit how that came about with your business, the new business, and let's talk about that, because I think you were probably naturally doing it anyway, because I know a lot of people probably were going to you for advice and support, and you could see there's a need for this. So how and when did that come about?
So a few things there. Yeah, absolutely. I was doing it, but I hadn't put in my head, I hadn't put a professional qualification around that. So that all came in 2022. It actually came after my father died, Sharon. So my dad was diagnosed with motor neuron in 2020, just before COVID. And
very tough time.
Really, really, really tough time. And sent home from hospital because, as most people will know, or if you don't, MND is an incurable disease. And
do they just let people home, Emma? Did they just say, you have this, there's your diagnosis, go home?
So it's very interesting. Dad had been sick for quite a while and they couldn't work out what was wrong with him. And in December of 2019, he was in NACE, and they use that word geriatric, and I just dislike that word because to me my dad was still a young man.
Yeah.
But it was that particular doctor, an experienced doctor, who thought my dad needed to see a neurologist, and with that an appointment duly came, and we saw a fantastic neurologist in Tala Hospital, Sean O'Brien. And I remember, Sharon, so clearly. I sat in the room, my mum and dad sat in front of the doctor, and I sat back, and he didn't have any medical equipment or testing or whatever. He had a curtain, and he had for want of a better description, a silver prong, and he did a few things. And my dad said to him, do you know what's wrong with me? And he goes, yeah, I think I do, PJ. And he said, so we're going to keep you in for a few days, and we will we'll work it out together. So he said, I'm going to ask you to go and take a seat with Lucy outside. That's my mum. And I just need to talk to Emma because I know she has a few questions. So at this point, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, what's he going to tell me?
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, your dad has motor neuron. And I was like, oh my God. So I didn't know much about motor neuron. All I knew about was the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge that everyone had been doing. But that never really clicked with me. So rang my sister and brothers, an older sister Sinead and two younger brothers, Porrick and Tom, and said, look, looks like where we're going. At this point, Mammy didn't know, so I had to go out, sat with Mum and Dad, waiting for a room. So when you say, do they let the patient home, over a period of time, they actually, I suppose, little bits of information they share, and then they tell you as a family when you're going to be called in and when the patient is told. So you knew
and they didn't?
Yeah, now that day afterwards, once my dad got settled into a room and into a bed, we had the conversation with Mum. So she knew then. So we knew, but there's so much to learn and so much to do because it's life changing, and you don't know how long you've left. It's called the 1,000-day disease, and I don't like to use that word disease, but it is 1,000 days.
So that you deteriorate over the 1,000 days, is it, Em?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And you knew that at the time, or did you not?
Dr. Google, and I would encourage anyone not to use Dr. Google
know,
when it comes to illnesses. We do.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's when you're thrown into that space and you don't know anything. So they looked after Dad for 3 weeks, and then he was sent home, and then COVID hit. So we cared for Dad at home until the 12th of April 2021. And I remember during that journey, you learn so much about yourself and your family dynamics and where you actually fit in your family, what works, what doesn't work.
And all the childhood
that
stuff comes back.
Yeah.
I know we're going through it at the moment, and it's so tough.
It is so tough. But what it also, when I think about business and that whole time as well, and think about our customers that we had, Noel then took over in that whole space. That's my husband. He really, looked after all our customers, and they were on that journey with us. They supported us. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But when I think about my dad's journey and all of those who suffer with MND, it is life-changing because, Dad lost his voice. So there we talk about communication. He was then able to write to us, and then he wasn't able to write. So, your mind is everything until you don't have it.
And that must have been awful that he couldn't communicate. You couldn't communicate with him then,
There are times you think, and I often remember, so we all live quite close by, which was really good. And it was COVID, so we weren't going anywhere else. So I'm very thankful, actually, that COVID came when it did, because we had that time to stop and to care for Dad at home.
Yeah.
So, when the nurses would ring, we took over. I have no medical background, but, I took over the role of the blood pressure, the oxygen levels, all of those things. And we were able to communicate. So the nurses were actually able to work with us and help us remotely manage Dad's health.
Okay.
And
amazing. The nurses are amazing, aren't they, Emma? They're just amazing.
Absolutely. And, the hospice service in Dad's final days, I would say the team there were just phenomenal in caring. And, you have to think about the power of the mind. And I say this about in business and in life. Dad, even though he had lost the ability to communicate in every form with us, you'd look at his eyes and you could communicate. So we still had the conversations. We still had those moments with him.
Wow.
And that, for me, was a life-changing moment. That diagnosis, that 20th of January, will stick with me forever, was life-changing. And our family. It changed how we operated as a family.
Did it bring us closer together, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong, there were challenges, but we all learned. And it kept changing. It kept evolving. Because, in terms of Dad's care, that evolved. And then caring for Mam as well, because she needed to be looked after too.
Absolutely, because her husband, her life partner.
Yes.
Her friend, everything.
And we couldn't have visitors.
Yeah.
So you could only have yourselves. So it was about keeping those things, keeping that upbeat as well. So you have to dig really deep when others can't.
Yeah.
And support them. And that for me was definitely a life-changing moment. And then, when you asked the question about how did I officially get into the whole coaching and mentoring space, it was something I always wanted to do. And I remember thinking to myself, I need to do this. I have control of this. Dad lost control of everything.
Yeah, it gave you perspective.
Gave me perspective. Okay, Emma, you're passionate about it. You have the skills. Now just go do it.
Yeah.
Don't waste any more time.
Don't waste any more time.
And I went after it and I didn't waste any more time. So in 2022, I set up what was called the Power of You Coaching. I've since rebranded it to Murphy Consulting, Coaching and Mentoring, where I break it into 3 areas, those specific 3 areas. And I suppose I work with individuals, businesses and corporate clients to foster growth, to enhance performance and to drive success. So,
and you know what I love about it? You'll always have the memory of your dad in that business, because that was the catalyst for you to say, I am doing this. So I know it's kind of bittersweet, but it's lovely that he's still sort of on that journey with you.
Absolutely.
That, he was the reason behind it. So he's there with you in that business all the time, and the memories and the why you started it. And it's a lovely start to a business like that.
Yeah.
Thinking about communication and the power of now and intentional and what we're doing and why we're here. And, collaborating together. And I think a lot of people in COVID, there was good and bad things for me too, the stopping. And so many people looked at what we're doing. Why am I doing this? So many things in my life I looked at and said, I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm stopping that. That was just a nonsense. So it was really, really good. It was terrible in ways. There was a lot of good that came out of COVID. And I'm really happy to hear that you had that time with your dad. Peace, quiet, no rushing around.
No rushing around, no nothing. And now, you know, to be able to give back and to raise awareness, whether, you know, through fundraising or whatever that may look like. And, you know, in 2023, when I was national president of Network Ireland, something Dad was very supportive of as well. So when you talk about men supporting you in your life, you know, I chose MND as the charity, and we raised over 17,000 at International Women's Day and the conference. But I couldn't have done that without our members, without the support. And that's about sharing the stories and about being vulnerable. It wasn't always easy. Did I cry? Absolutely. Yeah. But the one moment I will have that blinks the whole lot together is the national conference in Lawler's Hotel in Kildare. And my mum got up and shared a story about MND and how it can change lives, but the importance of fundraising for other families and the impact, regardless of how big or what you can give, every cent counts. And her speaking in front of an audience of almost 400 people was the first time she ever did that in her life.
Wow.
And I went, wow, I was so proud of my mum in that moment. And we talk about mentors and we talk about coaches. And, you know, my mum has been through so much, even since my dad passed away. And she is phenomenal for keeping us, I suppose, focused and grounded.
Yeah.
And equally, my granny, who's my mum's mum, is she'll be 95 this July.
And she's still with you.
She's still with us. And I know I'm going to give her a shout out here because she actually listens to podcasts because she has lost her sight.
Oh, wow.
It's the one thing she can do. So we call her Nana. Mary Moore is her name. So Nana, hi to you from myself and Sharon.
Hello, Nana. And mums back then, you know, we could have a whole other podcast about this, but just they were the unsung heroes. They had to give up work a lot of times in their careers when they had families and times were tough, and it was just a different world for them. I spoke about it on other podcasts. They just didn't even have the vocabulary to say, I'm not having a good day and my needs aren't being met and I don't feel fulfilled. They couldn't dare say that if they had a family and kids. They just had to, as I would say, drink the tea, and off they went, and they had to get on with it. So they were tough women. They are resilient. They get up tens. They will just keep going.
You know, I look at my granny and she didn't take an antibiotic until she was 54.
You're kidding. And
we talk about organic life and we talk about healthy eating and all of that. And that's because they grew everything. Yeah. They grew that way.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really phenomenal when you see things almost coming full circle. And I talk about that whole, you know, integration piece and the intentional piece. So everything that I do in my life is based on, you know, experience.
Real life experience. And I also should mention there that whilst Dad was sick, my father-in-law was also sick, and he passed away a few months after my own dad. So while there was so many things going on in that space, so my husband Noel was dealing with all of that. As a family, trauma. We were dealing with it. But it's the impact of that trauma as well, because both of our girls were very close to their granddads. So they lost their two granddads very close together. So that has, you know, definitely, you know, I suppose made them look at life too in a very different way. And I see, you know, they go out and they embrace, and yeah, they're 13 and 14, but they embrace football and all the sports and really enjoy life because it is for living, Sharon. Oh, and it you know, we forget, we lose perspective, but it's a short time that we're here.
It is. So to go back to your question then around, you know, the importance of coaching and mentoring, and you know, I think sometimes around titles, I'm not a big person on titles, like it's just get the job done, you know. But I really believe that, you know, with a business coach or a mentor, and some people don't really realise what they need until they have that, exploratory call, and it's really listening and actively listening and asking those powerful questions to the client that I realise that where I can unlock their potential for growth and tailor a program to suit them. So it is for everyone.
It is. And as I said, it isn't, people I think look at it, they think I'm in business, I should know it all. They don't, they can't. But also it's exploring other opportunities that you mightn't have thought of. It's taking the fear out of things. I've worked with a business coach. I always have one. And there's times when you have them and then you do your time with them and that's enough. You need to move on to somebody else because you change and grow and whatever it may be. But the business coaching piece, I think, is so, so important to help you stabilise your business, grow your business, look at it differently, a second set of eyes in your business. We're so busy on the everyday. I think it's valuable. Like I know some of the biggest business founders, CEOs have business coaches. Everybody does and they need it and it is for everybody. You can't know it all and you can't do it all on your own. And for me, Emma, I have to show up for my team every day, no matter what's going on, with a smile on my face. Everything is good no matter how I feel. So for me to be very vulnerable. Now I'm vulnerable in front of my team, but you can't be too vulnerable. You can't talk about your real worries or if you're having a yip. So you need a business coach to go to on those days that I can pick up the phone and ring and say, look, I'm really feeling like this and I need to explore this and talk about it. And sometimes even just talking about it and laying it out and somebody, helping you to put that into perspective and giving it back to you just helps you manage and then show up better for your team.
It sure does. It's like holding a mirror up and reflecting by asking those questions, but that it's in a space where you can do that you're not being judged.
Yeah, or taking up someone's time.
Absolutely. And you said something really important there about working with a coach that works, and it has to work both ways. So I've had clients come to me, or potential clients come to me, and I know that they're not the right fit, but from my experience, I have preferred partners who I'm happy to share that too. And that's really important, knowing who you can work with and who you can help and being honest.
Yeah.
Honesty and authenticity will take you everywhere, Sharon.
Yeah, because it won't work if you're not, and it could just be a personality thing. Could just be, we won't work well together and I know that, or I can't add value for you. So that means it won't work. And that means that moving forward, they're not going to get what they need. And then you can't give the best of you to them. So it's like dating, finding a business coach, isn't it, Emma? Because you have to kind of see if we're going to fit. Because I've had a few and I'm like, they're not going to fit for me. And then when you get it, it's like...
It's magic.
It's magic.
Yeah. And it's like that term I said to you earlier on, ABA, always be aligned. If you're aligned with your coach or your mentor or whatever that is, whatever name you want to give it, you don't even have to call it that if you don't like that word. That's okay. But it will absolutely help you transform and drive your success, both personally and professionally. And, years ago, I think there was probably a shame, oh God, you need help. Now it's the opposite. Get the help, and that's going to fast forward you. So together we can go further.
Yeah. Oh, and our Blaise Brosnan, we both know him, his book, You Are the Limiting Factor.
Yep.
It's a fact in business. You can get in your own way. So working with people, getting the support and having a coach to hold your hand. As I said, if you were playing golf, you'd get a coach.
Absolutely.
Vital.
Absolutely. And look, over the years, I've gotten in my own way. I got in my own way before I did the professional qualification of the coaching. But I am so glad that a life-changing event fueled me and gave me that kick that I needed to fast forward and move and now be able to support so many people on their journeys.
Yeah, amazing. And I know we spoke about earlier about the cross-border.
Oh, yes.
About the cross-border piece for people looking to export maybe their product or service to the north of Ireland, to the UK. You've been working with a lot of businesses, and actually there's a very good friend of mine, Anne-Marie, she's going to be on from Regsol.
Yes.
So she was singing your praises.
Yes.
And there's a good few people that you work with. So what's available out there for people who are looking to grow their business, look at new markets, maybe, export just up the north of Ireland or into the UK? Because I'm thinking about that at the moment, and it can be a scary thing.
It can.
And we can overthink it and we can overcomplicate it. So are there supports out there for businesses? What does that look like?
There sure are. There's and this is sometimes where a business mentor can come in very handy as well, Sharon, because you're looking on a website and you see all the supports and you go, oh my God, which one is appropriate to me? I just want to give a shout out to Anne-Marie Whelan from Red Sol. Yes, she was one of our very first, on the first cohort of the Grow programme, and she was just amazing. She inspired so many of us from Network Ireland on that, and I'm delighted to see her journey within Network Kildare at the moment. But in terms of where to go, so first and foremost, obviously there's your local enterprise office in whichever county you're in. Lean into those resources that are there, because everyone's at different stages of funding requirements and what they may need. In terms of the cross-border piece, I would encourage everyone to take a look at Intertrade Ireland.
Okay.
They have a huge amount of supports there, the trade hub. So whether you're a product or a service-based business, absolutely take a look at what they have available. If there's anything that I can do personally to help you explore that a little bit further, or any of your guests to look in a little bit more, I'm happy to do that as well. But it's Intertrade Ireland, take a look there. Enterprise Ireland, obviously in terms of funding, they're the follow-on stage from local enterprise office. So it's from 50 plus employees onwards. But, if you're on a growth journey and you want to start, have the conversation. Pick up the phone to someone again. Have that one-to-one. Have the Zoom coffee either. That's, it's the next best thing you can get to in person, really, if you can't physically meet them. But, there's so many options now. Have the conversations and learn what others have benefited, because you could be reading online until the cows come home.
Yeah, and it is confusing because there's so many different options. I've been on, but when you go in and meet with your Leo contact or whoever it is, they'll kind of talk to you around, okay, this is where you're at and we suggest you go here.
And that's what I would say. Everyone has different requirements. Some people, they might want to look at crowdfunding. There's so many options, for funding. And again, it comes back to where you're at in terms of that whole funding piece. But in terms of the cross-border piece, I would certainly encourage people to look at Intertrade, look at the trade hub there and the export opportunities, and reach out and have the conversations, because the team there are absolutely excellent and they will support you on your journey. And equally, they will be very honest. And that's important too. That is so important, And I know from chatting with Claire Dunleavy, who's absolutely excellent in the local enterprise office in Kildare, they will tell you, and you need that advice, you need that support. But you need to know what you want before you go to them as well.
You need to know what you want. And I know this was something that Claire had said recently at an event, that before you go in, if you're looking for funding, what do you need the funding for?
Yes.
Why do you need the funding? How much do you need? And are you ready, to accept the funding? So, I suppose for them, it'd be very frustrating, somebody saying, what can I get? So, what do you need it for? So kind of do a little bit of work before you go anywhere looking for funding. It's like if you're applying to the bank for a loan, you're not going to go and say, give me money, but I don't know what it's for. So do a little bit of homework and look at your business and, maybe work with a mentor or a coach to say, okay, if we're moving to the next stage, what will we need and what does that look like?
And know your business. No one knows your business like you as a business owner. I don't know
anybody else's business. Yeah.
You're the best person to sell that. So I use the same analogy with networking with anything. Even if you're personally going to a bank, for example, you need to have your facts and your figures. So whoever you go to in terms of the funding provider, they're not going to, some you might find that you need to know what you had for your breakfast.
Yes.
But you do need to have a level of understanding of what you have to play with, where you want to go, what that looks like, and how that's going to change your business. So that's where we would look at on the Grow It programme. Now, that's all part of the Shared Island Fund, but Intertrade can still stand alone and help you. But take a look, see if there's something there that sits with you. I mean, I've received many phone calls from people saying, look, I'm interested in this. What are your thoughts? So I asked those questions, those top 5 questions that I would ask, and encourage people to go and do their homework and then come back, because it's like a referral. You don't just cold throw someone into a referral without knowing, well, whether it's the right fit for them.
Yeah, what their business looks like. So I know from people, they say, I didn't get anything off the Leo, but you didn't know what you wanted going in, and do a little bit and look at it like as if you're applying to the bank for a loan. You just wouldn't walk in and say, give me money. So it's the same concept, and they think because it's government funding, they should just be given it, but they can't. They should do a little bit of homework. But the funding there does help any business really at at the stage of growth. They want to help businesses to grow in Ireland. And I know that we're very unique in the supports that we get, and we're very lucky in this country. So we should really reach out more and look for the supports there for growth in our business.
And I will say that supports north and south of the border are different. And recently we held an event with the full cohort from the Grow It. And we actually had Anne Butterley from Easy Dry, fantastic business. And we had Melo Power from Monkey Cups. Melo was actually on our first cohort as well. And she talked about exporting and getting an export mentor through the local enterprise office and the difference that has made to her business. But she was very clear on what countries she wanted to get into, and from that grow out from there. So have your facts, have your figures, and have the conversation. So I always say, do your research first and then reach out. But if you don't ask, you won't get either. But know what you're asking.
Know what you're asking for. And I think that is important, because as and it's a lonely place. The mentorship sometimes can be very good when it might not be an export, but diving into new markets or new products or new services, somebody who will have done something similar before, you just hold your hand a little bit, and it takes the terrifying waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sweating, and oh my God, what am I going to do? It takes that out of it. So those supports are there for us in business, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask. It's not a shame thing, but I think we've kind of gone past all of that now, thank God. But just people sometimes don't know what's available. So those Leos and those supports are there for us in business to help
Absolutely.
us.
And what I'd say what I say to someone who's brand new starting out, definitely engage with your Leo to take a look at what's there at the startup phase, because you don't want to miss out on an opportunity either. In terms of if there's something you can get at a startup point, whether that's retail, hospitality, regardless of the sector. I know there's a lot of focus on tech at the moment. And sustainability and digital, but all key areas. So reach out, have the conversation is really
the main thing.
The main thing.
But there's one thing: if you are rejected for funding, right? Because I didn't get any in my business, but it really drove me to be self-sufficient. And I heard this new phrase, bootstrap the business. I didn't know what it meant, right? But they were like, you bootstrapped your business. I was saying, oh yeah, but I didn't know what it meant. I do now, and it means that we're self-funded, and we had the growth through profits and through me watching the money in and out, what we're spending, where we're going, how much we have, and it really did ensure that I was a profitable business. So if you're rejected, don't worry. You'll get it when you need it, but it's a very good discipline not to be given funding, because it means you'll push hard for those sales and you'll run a very, very efficient business.
You'll run a tight ship.
Yeah.
And you know what? Rejection sometimes is just sending you on a different journey.
Yeah.
Not everyone's journey is linear, and that's okay. And sometimes that's a mindset piece that we have to work on. We think, we're going to go straight. It's going to be a straight peak to success. It's going to be up, down, lots of peaks and troughs, and it's accepting that. But back to the funding piece, if you are at that stage as a business, when you're going, really ensure that you have a strong, clear pitch. It's a bit back to the networking.
Okay. The elevator pitch, or take a dragon's den.
Yeah, like have a compelling one and a pitch and a plan, and be very clear, yourself in terms of, when you're working it out and when you go to have these conversations about the market opportunity and why you believe you're a right fit for those market opportunities. And there's so many trade missions that you can go on as well via the local enterprise office. So what I would say is have your plan, have your pitch, know your solution. What problem are you solving? What's your unique selling point? And where is the growth potential? Because if you can see all of that and you're asking for the funding, tell the story, the two of them marry together, the potential there for growth.
You'll get the support then.
And you will absolutely get the support, because those on the funding side will see the value. They will clearly see that you understand your business. And again, it comes back to that piece, people buy from people.
Yeah, it's vital and underestimated. And listen, Emma, we changed the name of the podcast, as you know.
I know, it's amazing.
To Get Up 10. And there's a Cardi B song.
Go on. I was thinking about this coming in the car.
Yeah, so I put it up. I found it. So my daughter actually said to me, Mom, do you know there's a Cardi B song? But it really is around the resilience piece. And you just said there that there's no business that just goes from zero to, success. There's so many days that we doubt ourselves. There's so many things that we have to overcome. imposter syndrome, you know, I don't know if it's a syndrome, but like doubting ourselves and not believing in ourselves and having days. You know, I've often rang my business coach and I'm like, I don't know if I could lead the dog around the garden, never mind a team or a business. So
Yeah.
That resilience piece is really, really important in business. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or maybe talk about something that you've overcame that was difficult in your business, or the importance of having resilience in business?
For me, it's resilience is built into everything I do. So again, as a business owner, we all have challenges. We all get knocked down.
Yeah.
And that song is coming to mind as
Yeah.
well. But I think it's about your emotional ability as well to navigate that journey. And like what we said a moment ago, that sometimes when you're told no, I certainly know I used to take that personally, but I have realised on my journey that no was a godsend, that it was actually redirecting me to something bigger.
Yeah.
And it's accepting that.
Yeah.
And learning from that.
And sometimes it might just be a growth piece. It might just be timing. We spoke about timing. It's just not no, but not now.
Yes, and I love that sentence. It's a sentence I have as well. It's not no, but it's you have to dig deep and get the strength, because what you don't get now, it will come.
Yeah.
There's a great saying, what's meant for you won't pass you.
Yeah.
And it's an old one, but I really, really believe it. So, when I think about that business that I was involved in 2016 and everything closing, we'd everything in one basket, all our eggs in one basket. That January, what were we going to do? So I had to really dig deep and think fast. And the easiest thing for me would have been to go get a job.
Yeah.
But that entrepreneur piece had kicked in. And as Blaise said to me, you left the corporate world, you've got more to give. And it was just reframing my mindset and actually taking the pause.
Okay.
So for resilience, and when you're hit with something unexpected, or something comes at you that it's kind of building and then it is a no, it's just taking that time out and breathing.
Yeah. Lick your wounds a little bit and then just get back up.
And get back up and go again. So it's you get knocked down 9 times.
Get up 10. Yeah.
Get up 10. And so resilience is about finding that strength and that inner strength. And I believe we absolutely all have it. And challenges are sent our way to make us stronger.
Yeah.
And that's not fluffy. That actually really happens. And I would know from working with clients and from my own experience that really when you dig deep and you reflect and look at the learnings, what you've gained.
Yeah. You gain more in the hard times. Always.
Absolutely.
And I started to reframe it, Emma, and I'm saying, when something happens, I'm like, it's just part of the journey, Sharon. It's part of the journey. They're gonna have days like this. So I reframe it, because sometimes the anxiety and the overwhelm can be very strong.
It can.
But I think it's like a muscle. The more I say that to myself, the easier it's getting now. I'm like, it's just part of the journey. Tomorrow's a new day.
And again, it's acknowledging it.
Yeah.
So it's not sweeping it under the carpet. It's actually acknowledging it and saying, okay, this has happened. It's not for me. What's next? But I also think when good things happen, it's having that gratitude piece as well is so important.
Yeah.
In that whole resilience space.
Yeah.
Being thankful for simple and small things in life.
Yeah, and people said to me, when you're having those days, they're like, if the Sharon from 5 years ago could see where you are now, I'm like, she'd be just like over the moon, because it's never enough. I'm always looking and saying, well, I'm only really getting started. But if Sharon Farrell from 2019 could see me now in the business, I'd be like, we made it. But for me now, I don't think I have. I'm like, oh no, I've so much to do. But those moments, then I stop and I say, I'm actually grateful for what I have and for where we are now in business, in life, in everything.
And the power in those moments, and the power in celebrating the small wins.
Yeah.
We often, in the fast-paced world that we live in, we're constantly striving and going. And yes, it's brilliant. We all want to achieve more, and we all have great plans, but we are human.
Yeah.
So, take every day as a day. Take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
and enjoy the journey.
Yeah, that's very important.
Because if you don't enjoy the journey, when things go wrong and you're not having fun, you'll just go, you know what, I'm going to pack it in.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's when you really have all the pieces behind you. And I always say, look at what you have achieved.
Yeah.
I don't encourage looking in the rear view mirror.
No.
Look at the windscreen. Look
Ahead
at where
of you.
you're going.
Yeah.
But make sure you learn from what didn't work in the past.
Yeah.
Because if you just push it to one side and don't learn, well, then that's not going to help you fuel
And
forward.
I always think it's going to just keep repeating itself till I get this lesson, till I know what I didn't do. I'm just going to keep making that mistake until I look back and say, okay, we need to fix this. That's really important in business. I see people doing it all the time. But it's hard when you're on that little, you're going 100 miles an hour and you're like, I haven't time to look in any mirror. I'm just going. So it is popping our heads up and looking and saying, okay, I need to get some perspective here. I think that's where coaches come in and can help you.
Absolutely. So it comes back to that whole coaching piece, taking that space for yourself, having that accountability, but also that boundary piece that we spoke about a little bit earlier on. You can't underestimate the power of a boundary when you're running a business and you have great growth plans.
Yeah. And you're just like, something happens that's just like, oh my God, this is it. Yeah, coming in. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you really wanted to get in?
Wow, there's been so much.
I know. We really have filled it.
I just want to encourage anyone out there who is on the cusp of entrepreneurship to keep going. It is so worth it.
It is, yeah.
And for anyone on their journey that is having a tough day, you've got this and you can do it, and lean in to the circle that are around you. And I would really encourage everyone to be part of a network and leverage their network for strategic growth, because it is there. The opportunities are on the table.
And the supports are there.
The supports are there. And the other piece I would say to everyone, again, you will know this, Blaise Brosnan would have said to us, don't leave any money on the table, when you're running a business. But be mindful of what tables you're sitting around as well, and the energy that comes from those tables, and who around that table is really in your corner to help you grow and to help you achieve greater things.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Emma, where can people reach you? So if they're looking to maybe want to talk to you about anything, mentorship, a chat, whatever they need, where is the best place for people to reach you? Okay, so they can reach out to Murphy Consulting, Coaching and Mentoring. We're online. Brilliant.
At www.mccm.ie.
Great.
And I'd be delighted to have that exploratory conversation to help you on your journey. Ultimately, I unlock potential to deliver results for individuals, businesses and corporate clients, to help them on their success journey. I would like to say that if I can finish on a quote that I absolutely love, and I really believe that your smile is your logo, your personality is your business card.
Oh, I love it.
And how you leave people after you have worked with them is your trademark. And I would have welcomed the opportunity to work with your guests and support them in any way that I can on their personal and professional growth journey.
Emma, thank you so much. That was amazing.
Sharon, I'm just delighted to be here. It's my very first podcast. And
you never know. You were super.
Well, thank you. As my friend Linda said to me, you turn nervous into service. And there you go. And what a beautiful surroundings that we're in here today as well. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity. And I really hope that there's some nuggets in there for your guests.
Thank you, Emma.
Great.